Are you serious? Are you serious, folks? Welcome to this broadcast today. We've got a powerful program for you today. We're going to be talking about some unbelievable stuff's happening so quickly. Things are changing so fast, it's hard to keep up with it. But let me just say this right now. We're bringing on our absolute expert today. In a few moments, you're going to see Bob Cudler with us. But let me give you some breaking news. Yes, the hurricane is terrible, and the Bahamas has been wiped out. What will that mean? The tourists, you forget the tourism to the Bahamas for a while, but what's that going to mean? And what about this hurricane? It's still drifting toward Florida. And even if it hooks now, even if it decides to go back the other way, then it's going to go then we're talking Savannah, Georgia, or Charleston, South Carolina, or Wilmington, North Carolina. So I don't care what we do here, we're going to have some massive destruction apparently along the coast of the United States, the East Coast. We're going to have to wait and see what that means. But we've got some breaking news today, a couple things. One, Walmart has just announced they're no longer going to sell ammunition. Just stopping it. And look, I understand passions are running high. A lot of folks are very upset at the shootings, but the Texas shooting we just had, it wouldn't have mattered if you changed the gun laws or not. This guy was a felon who could not pass a background check. He failed it. So he had these guns illegally. But they won't talk about that much because he doesn't fit their narrative. Changing the gun laws doesn't stop him from killing and shooting people down there in Midland, Texas. And oh, by the way, they never talk about the Chicago shootings because most of those folks are illegal and it doesn't fit the narrative. But again, is private business now going to decide if you can own a gun? What if private businesses get together and shut down your Second Amendment? Can that happen? And oh, by the way, stock market started really dipping and falling today. Maybe we can get the answers why that had a bad day. Is that because of the China trade tariffs that are going on with the United States? Is that causing it? There's a lot of indicators, but silvers are going sky high. Somebody help me understand. Let's bring the man, the legend from Trade Genius Academy, Bob Cudler. Bob, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, Paul. How you doing?
Well, I'm trying to make sense of the whole thing. I'm trying to understand. I mean, the China tariff thing doesn't ever seem to go away. Every time you think there's a deal, there's no deal. So help us understand that. Let's start with that.
Yeah. So first of all, there'll never be a trade deal. So just pull that out of your worry list. We're doing exactly what we want to do. Look, China cannot ever agree to where the United States wants to go with this. We're trying to do a fundamental reorientation of the relationship. So it's simply impossible for us to maintain the level of trade we had with China in the past without totally screwing up our economy and making us basically a colony of China over time. So forget about it. Trump's just playing a game here with with all the short sellers, okay, and all the deep state activists, and apparently he's now fighting the central banks around the world who apparently are in bed with the deep state and China. So it's just not going to happen. And so just everybody take a deep breath on that. Whenever Trump says trade negotiations are going well, he means exactly that. It's going well for him.
So his plan is, so it's going well for President Trump because it doesn't matter. He doesn't need a trade deal. We are literally cleaning their clocks by applying the tariffs. That's strengthening our manufacturing base. It's bringing in billions of dollars in tariffs that we're collecting. It's not hurting the economy. Quite the opposite. It's helping the economy because more people are producing product here in America. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, look, don't listen to anybody in the news. They all have an axe to grind. So what's happening here is that, President Trump is breaking up the supply chain to China. He doesn't care so much if it gets spread out a little bit to other countries, but he definitely wants to make sure that the things that matter to our country is made in our country. So anything you think about with basic industry and anything you think about with high tech, it's going to be manufactured here. Or in a country that has a high level of trust with us, i.e. like Britain, Australia, Canada, etc. But he's not going to allow our supply chains to be dictated by Asia, except for China. I mean, except for Japan, because Japan has taken on a role basically as forward operating base for us, opposing China in the Pacific. So that's what's going to happen. And it doesn't even matter if it's China, if it's Trump in office. The Democrats are dead quiet on this because they agree with him. They're not going to give him credit, but they agree with him. Elizabeth Warren would even be more strident, okay? Bernie Sanders the same, except that he's a communist, and he'll probably work out some carve-out with the Chinese just to enslave us, but he's not getting elected, so we don't have to worry about him. And the Senate is totally on board. So I think as more and more stuff comes out about China and what they've done and are doing to this country, the more people are just going to be like, yeah, Trump got it, and we're just going to move on. The people that are crying are the people that have their supply chains over there, or they have an opportunity to make sell business over there, but it's not in our national interest, so heck with them.
Bob, also, while you're looking at these the trade deals going on, that the president and the tariffs, I should say, the trade war. Also today, a very surprise announcement. Walmart decided they're no longer going to sell ammunition in their stores. Now, that is a huge piece of their business. A lot of money is being traded with Walmart in purchasing of ammunition. And we're hearing that other large retailers are thinking about stop selling guns or ammunition. Is there an initiative starting now that if government, if some of the folks in the government can't take away the Second Amendment rights, that maybe they can force the big companies to do it? Do you see that happening?
Yes and no. Okay, Walmart gets out of it, but there's Bass Pro Shop. There's, there are people that appeal towards the outdoor enthusiast, and those people aren't going to go away. And and the gun manufacturers, they'll open their own retail stores. And so, look, the Second Amendment is going to be fine. They're going to try, but at the end of the day, that amendment's not going away without a huge fight. And so, this has become a bigger issue, though, because if you notice, we blame the communists for government control and European Union for their regulations, but in the United States, we use big corporations to do things they can't legislate. So when things get to be a whole bunch of smaller companies doing it, then they can't chase all these people down. You know what I'm saying? So it's going to be a lot of mom and pops. It'll be in smaller towns, but the guns will still be bought and sold. Ammunition will still be bought and sold. And, things will continue. I'm worried about just the heart of man being so cold that this is even an option for somebody. That he lost his job, so he decides to kill 5 people and die himself. I mean, we have a sin problem, as you well know, but it's really getting to a point where people are indifferent to it, like they feel like they're in some sort of game. That bothers me more than anything else. And I think a lot of it too is I was just talking to another person. The intelligence agencies now and some of these big medical centers, they're able to send suggestions into people. I mean, this is no longer science fiction. There's no longer conspiracy theories. They had a guy on TV that was able to think. He was a paraplegic, and he was able to think out actions to move objects around. Well, if he can think out, they can think in. And so, I think there's a lot of work being done here. And so I worry about a lot of that stuff more than anything else, that just the mind control and all this other crazy stuff that 10 years ago, if you'd have told me, I would have said you were nuts. And today I'm like, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, it is quite amazing, folks, what's happening, how technology is advancing and how evil. You mentioned the sin problem. It really is the evil that lurks in the heart of man. And I mean, even the Bible told us that, in the last days that men's hearts will be on evil continually. So, wow, we're seeing that. And it's a sad thing. So, anyway, our hearts go out to all the victims. Anyone who's been shot, whether it be in Odessa, Texas, or be anywhere else in this country. In Chicago, the crime rate, the murder rate's just off the charts. It's happening, but it's part of our overall cultural problem, and I think you speak to it very well in that, Bob. Folks, this is Bob Kudla from TradeGeniusAcademy.com. That's Bob Kudla, and he's at TradeGeniusAcademy.com. Now, Bob, we've got some things we got to ask you about. I mean, the Dow Jones is down 285 points today. But silver is up all the way to $19.17 an ounce and climbing. Gold is at $15.47. I mean, those are two precious metals on the rise. Bitcoin dropped a little to 10,006. And oil is just a shy under $60 a barrel, which that's good for the Americans because that fuels the economy. But why is silver starting to rise and gold?
Well, I mean, look, gold and silver have been really suppressed, and it's rising because we have negative interest rates all around the world, and now everybody's expecting the U.S. to start easing as well. So when you have negative yield, right, why should you keep any of your assets in a bank, right? So now people are just moving their money over to the only asset that doesn't have a liability, and that's precious metals. So just last week, platinum shot up too. So gold, silver, platinum, palladium, those are the precious metals. They're doing well. There's another one called rhodium, but you can't get a hold of it. And they're just rocking. And it's going to continue. Now, we may get some pullbacks here, Paul, the next couple weeks going into the Fed meeting where the big boys may want to try to push price down a little bit so it's more affordable for them. But make no mistake, there's too much fiat being created around the world, and people want to own things that have a scarcity value, and that's gold and silver. And as the economy starts to slow, you're going to see people leaving the stock market in general, and they're going to be moving to things that are going to maintain value. And those are the things that are interest rate sensitive, like utilities. You're going to see the U.S. government bond actually doing well, which it already has been. And then you're also going to see companies that pay high dividends do well. But beyond that, you don't want to really be messing around with the stock market now going into this election. You and I talked about this before. We're now in the window between now and the election where the economy could start to falter. And the stock market will lead that by about 6 months. So what we got to watch out for is when the stock market, I don't look at the Dow, I look pretty much at the S&P. So when that thing breaks below 2,700, it's around 2,900 right now. If it gets below 2,700, then start to look for a bigger sell-off if it can't come back towards a high. And that's when people need to take a signal if you're in the market for a longer period of time to take some chips off the table so that you could buy at a lower price. Because eventually the stock market will come back because there's very few places for people to grow their assets. But we may get a pretty good sell-off between now and the election. And, because people are going to start getting really nervous, Paul. And you can see, Ben, the long knives are out after Trump. And so people are getting a little cautious. And, when we get done with this statement here, I definitely want to talk about the Federal Reserve. So what they're doing and the cabal they're leading now, and some of the statements that they're making should scare you. You want to talk about buying and selling without a mark of the beast? Well, the central banks around the world are dishing it up right now. So this is a thing that we have to keep an eye on because now they want to throw up the shackles of the U.S. dollar, and they want the central banks to run the new digital currency, which they will control.
Well,
I can't imagine that happening without a big fight or big sell-offs in world markets.
Well, let's talk about that because right when we started this broadcast, you said the banks working in cahoots, if you will, with the deep state against Trump. Okay, and when we say against Trump, we don't mean Trump necessarily by himself, but the Trump doctrine. the Trump doctrine of free trade and strengthening the military and lower taxes and entrepreneur and lower regulations and that kind of thing. And so what you're seeing here, the deep state, which is, folks, when we say deep state, we're not just talking about the deep state in Washington. We're talking, the deep state is global. We're talking about as Bob is saying, this is the cabal, the world cabal that wants to really hijack the world into a new world order, a one world government. And so you look for them to what? Quantum, they want quantum. They want to change the currency value of a dollar by, I guess, flooding it with more dollars. Is that true?
Yeah. So look, you look at the world this way, right? There are these centers of influence, right? There's Europe, there's Eurasia, there's the Middle East, and then there's the United States. The Europeans never, and then China, and the Europeans never ever wanted to cede control. I think they're still livid 200 years later that they lost the United States out of their orbit. And they've been doing everything in their power to drag us back in. And I think they've been relatively successful because they gave us the Federal Reserve, which is really run by the European bankers behind the scenes, with sympathy for the American bankers, because they view themselves, the progressives view themselves as, look, we're the smart people, and we have to make the decisions for the dumb hicks.
Yeah.
And they pretty much already sedated the European masses. Okay, China sedated their masses through this social credit thing, and now they're working on the United States. And so they never expected Trump. They thought Clinton would come in and would seal the deal. And so now they have to kind of expose themselves. And Trump has this ability to make people say out loud what they think, but they don't want people to know. And so you had this guy, Bill Dudley, who was a former New York Fed governor, basically say, oppose Trump, be the resistance. This is the Federal Reserve. We knew this. We talked about this before. Trump knew they did this to Bush 1, okay? And because he got a little high on his horse from winning Gulf War I. And then you have Carney, the Bank of England governor, said, hey, I think we need to speed up a world currency run by the central banks. And so now you have these people openly touting it, that they said, hey, the dollar should no longer be the reserve currency. And that's what gives our military its strength, because we're able to now force people into situations that they may not otherwise want to be in, because they have to trade using our dollars. So if the central banks in Europe can control the new currency, well, they get to control everything. And so this is where we're going. And it's not going to happen without a lot of turmoil. And they may not be successful, Paul, but they've now openly admitted it. And, my view is I think, Europe, the Bible lays it out pretty clearly. It's iron and clay. So I think Europe's going to kind of disintegrate into factions anyway, and I think England will break off. I think the U.S. is going to be in it for a while unless something happens from an out of left field view. But what's going to cause us, and what I look at too, I just look at, okay, how do I protect my family? How do I make people money? Doing this is that, look, you're going to have to go to things that are going to protect your family. You're going to want to be in gold. You want to be in silver. You want to bring your assets back in the United States. And that's what's been holding our stock market up, because around the world, people have been pouring their money into the U.S. Because, look, even the Chinese, all right, are trying to get their money out. That's why Bitcoin's doing so well, Paul, is that the Chinese is loaded up on Bitcoin that's out of the country. They just take a trip and their money's sitting there waiting for them. And that's what's happening in Europe. Look at Argentina last week. They're going to default again, Paul. So everything's crowding around the U.S., and the European elites do not like it. They're going to lose their seat at the table. So they're cooking up with the central banks. China is co-opting the central banks, dangling their 1.5 billion consumer marketplace in front of them. Basically using what they call the what's the word? It's their word for savages. The Chinese use to basically I'm sorry, Paul. Somebody came to my door. and they're early.
All right, it's all right. Do you need to get them, or
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Well,
I'll
no,
talk for a
I'm
minute.
good. I'm good. Somebody was there. I apologize.
Okay.
I apologize, everybody.
That's all right.
So they use this strategy by co-opting everybody, and so they buy off the elites. They bought off already 40 countries, Paul, and now they're working on the Europeans.
Are you serious?
And that's the whole Belt and Road Initiative is that.
Oh, the Silver Road. Yeah, the Silver Road. Hey, also, Bob Kudla, folks, listen, he's the expert here. He's the trade genius at tradegeniusacademy.com. You can always pick up the phone and call 1-800-949-1408. That's 1-800-949-1408. Let him help you get started and learn how to be a part of the trading, okay? And Bob is a genius. He's got fall specials for the crypto and binary options. You can become a trader there. Look at, he's got a list of things you get as for this great deal. He's got a fall special also on renewals and welcoming those of you who want to be involved in that. Also, what Bob does is fall specials for the ETF and stock traders, and the fall special for the whole package. And what he does, he teaches you. You might not know anything about the stock market. You don't need to. Once you enter into the Trade Genius Academy, he trains you and teaches you how to get started. Start slow, but he'll help you get started, and he'll give you trigger mechanisms. As a matter of fact, we got some charts you can show people, Bob, can't you? How you're able to send them a trigger mechanism of it's time to sell this one or it's time to buy. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, so we provide trade signals that we'll send to you right to your phone, and we also provide you software with our indicators already on there. It's basically through the internet, and it'll actually have buy and sell signals right on there, and then we teach you how to use those signals so you could trade things that we don't trade. And the nice thing about it is it takes the emotions out of everything, Paul. So, some of the charts I sent you, and I've been sending you them every month here, and our results is that
amazing.
It doesn't lie. So it looks at buying pressure, it looks at selling pressure, and we see the reversals. And a lot of times we talk ourselves out of trades, but math works, and so you trust the math. And not all trades work out, but if you do enough of the trades, you're going to make really good money over time.
I mean,
that's what we do.
Your trade success rates are somewhere up, north of 80%. I mean, you don't obviously not every trade's going to make money every time. But if 80%, 82%, I don't know what your percentages were for last year. But man,
let me correct you, Paul. Yeah, it's actually 65%.
Okay.
So so it's 65%. And which is actually as good as anybody can do in the markets. And but what's more importantly is we make 10% on every trade. So
there you go. In other words, so
we do extremely well, and so we find the right trades. We put people in the right trades, and they over time you grow your portfolio. So we do very well, and we don't trade penny stocks or any of that garbage. We're trading in names that people can recognize, and we trade in things we think are going to go up as a sector. So right now, our focus is the precious metals, Paul, and that's where we think it's going to be the play for the next 6 to 12 months, and people make a lot of money and also protect your family at the same time. And we're waving the flag saying, look, okay, the stock market is probably topped. There might be one more push, if Trump announces some sort of infrastructure package or whatever, but that's pretty much it. And where you're going to make your money is the things that are going to have scarcity value. And those are the things that we're talking about here today: gold, silver, platinum, palladium, high dividend stocks, and basically the utilities and bonds. That's where the money's going to be made. Everywhere else is going to go down in value. And
we've talked about this before, about the gold and silver, and I've even got some confirmation from other guys that are saying the same thing. But I'm hearing that silver, which is at $19.17. I mean, it was just a few days ago that it was under $14. So I'm hearing that silver could actually get to $50 an ounce before the election. Is that real?
I don't know. I don't know if it's going to get to all-time highs before the election, but you can't discount the fact that it's been extremely suppressed, Paul. And so, gold and silver ratio is out of whack. So silver can actually move at twice the speed of gold to get to its ratio that's found in nature over time. And silver is running at a bigger deficit because it has industrial uses as well. So for sure, we were always calling over $21 for this year, and it looks like it's getting there. But I could see silver easily in the 30s. Whether it gets to all-time highs before the election or not, I don't know. But for sure, gold and silver will be at all-time highs in general, just because of the nature of these guys can't stop spending, Paul.
And folks, again, you can pick up the phone and call Bob Kudla over at Trade Genius Academy. That number is 1-800-949-1408. That's 1-800-949-1408. The Dow Jones slipped a little today, but that's because of trade. Maybe it's the trade war. Maybe it's the Walmart announcement. Who knows? But one thing's for sure, he's right. Bob is right. Gold, silver, precious metals are going to continue to climb up during this next election cycle process. You mentioned the cabal, the deep state. The new. Do you still see? I mean, the new Green Deal. I mean, can we talk about this? Because I mean, people are starting to wonder. Elizabeth Warren and Joe Biden looks like are starting to pull away from the pack. You still got Kamala Harris in there and Buttigieg. But what does this all mean? I mean, the Green New Deal, is this going to be a battle for capitalism against socialism? Is that what this election's coming down to?
I think they want it to be that. That's why they're trying to get the youth all excited about the Green New Deal. But the Green New Deal is not going to happen, and ever, because they have to tax people first. And every time they try to do that, they lose it. I mean, look at Governor Inslee in his own state. He's the big Green New Deal governor. He's lost every referendum up there, and he's in a liberal state of Washington. If they try to do this in California, it would lose here too. People like things. They like things they could talk about at the cocktail party, but they absolutely do not want to pay for it. And so that's what's going to kill it. And look what happened in France. I mean, you have 42 weeks of now open warfare with the government because they tried to raise the diesel tax. People only have so much money, Paul, and you don't know where you're going to pull out the last straw.
Well, what do you think about what just happened in Manhattan? Okay, now in Manhattan they have the luxury tax. If you sell your condo or your home or townhouse, if the value of this thing is $2 million or more, which in Manhattan, everything's $2 million, okay? If it's $2 million or more, the first $1 million, you're not taxed. But the second million has a 50% tax over anything above $1 million. So can I ask you a question? They said the sale of apartments and condos and luxury locations literally falls off the cliff. Who is going to be able to sell anything if the government's taking half your money? This is what's Blasio and those guys running New York thinking?
Well, they're only thinking about the next election, Paul. Look, we have an example of this actually. If your listeners in the state of Illinois, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Is that the price of homes in California are 3 times where they were in 1995. The price of homes in Illinois are at the same price they were in 1995 because the property tax there is brutal. And what you pay in property tax in Illinois is suppressing the value of the home because people only have so much money. So when you get qualified for a mortgage, well, your interest and your tax and your insurance are baked into that. You can't qualify for a home. So if people want to sell their home, they got to keep dropping the price. Well, it's suppressing everything. And that's what's going to happen in New York. All these people are doing feel-good stuff. And we go into the next recession, Paul, and the stock market takes a dump and New York starts to bail out. They're not going to know what to do because they lived on real estate for the last 50 to 70 years. And so, Yeah, so that stuff doesn't work, and so they're just going to get this crazier because they think they're appealing and appeasing people, and the people are just going to get more emboldened to want more and more, and then you end up with broken systems. But New York and Illinois are in deep weeds, and there's no way out of it for them.
So does Beto got the answer? Does Elizabeth Warren got the answer? Does Bernie got the answer? I mean, what are they? Does AOC got the answer? What are these people talking about?
Well, look, they do not trust the market. Okay, they think the market is like they are because they're the smartest people in the room, and they think if they dictate something will happen. They have no clue on what basically is the flexibility of supply and the flexibility of demand. It's called the elasticity curves. They don't understand it. They think if they raise the price of something, you're still going to buy it. So they do these linear calculations of, well, we're just going to raise this much more money because we're just going to raise taxes. Then they find out that sales drop off a cliff. And therefore, it basically moots what they are trying to accomplish. And so what happens here, and this happened in Venezuela, this is why people really need to be concerned, is that Venezuela started capping what people could charge for things, i.e. homes right through taxation, and they kept raising the minimum wage. So you got to a point where people that are highly skilled, like doctors and lawyers and business people, were not making much more than people making minimum wage. And then they would then suppress what the cost of everything you could sell it for. Well, what happened was production collapsed, and then productivity collapsed because people say, well, I'm not going to go to work as a doctor if I'm going to get paid the same as the guy working down cleaning the streets. And then the whole system just busts apart. And so they don't really think this stuff through, Paul. They basically are sitting back saying, this is how the world ought to be, but not the way the world is. They don't really understand how to grow a pie. They only know how to slice a pie. And so, they only understand human nature to the point of punishment. They don't understand human nature from the point of view of incentive. So it's really a mindset that can't be changed by these people. And now they're unhooked. There's no grandmother or grandfather, in the Congress to say, hey guys, this stuff doesn't work. And so now you have this new breed of congressperson who just is now out for revenge. And so
that's what brought down Rome.
I think Trump will win, but the election after that is going to get interesting.
It's going to get ugly. Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head. Folks, Bob Kudla here, TradeGeniusAcademy.com, TradeGeniusAcademy.com. This is why he is successful. This is why his expertise in help guiding you through the market. He studies a lot of areas, the trade war, the weather patterns, a lot of things that come into play to why certain stocks of certain company have a chance of becoming a winner and the losers. He picks them real well. He's hitting a good enough batting average. They put him in the Hall of Fame. So, Bob, I appreciate you coming on, being with us again today. I mean, this is really good stuff. Folks, get these fall specials at TradeGeniusAcademy.com. Now's the time to sign up. This could be a good run for you, Bob. Appreciate it very much you coming on and giving us your expertise.
Hey, Paul, thanks for having me. Have a good one.
All right. Bob Kudla, folks. Bob Kudla from TradeGeniusAcademy.com. Again, let him get you started in trading and day trading. And really, for some of you that are pretty sharp, this might be something you might want to do because he does have the ability to guide people along the way. All right. I'll be back with more current world events and how they relate to biblical prophecy. We are living, folks, in the last days.